Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Talking a little bit about this situation over in Libya. Got some more information about that. We have some confirmation here from the State Department that while there was no Marine security detachment on duty in Benghazi, in fact, we discovered that on 9/11/12, the 11th anniversary of 9/11, there was not a single Marine in the entire country of Libya. There wasn't a Marine at our embassy in Tripoli. There wasn't a Marine at our consulate in Benghazi. Not one single solitary Marine in the entire country. But we do find out from the State Department that we did have a Marine security detachment deployed on 9/11 to protect our U.S. Embassy in Barbados. I ARF you not. Now, talking about Sharia coming to the United States, here's a story about a court that refused a guy. He wanted to change his last name to Christ is King. His last name was Nwaduko. He's from Nigeria. He wanted to change his last name to Christ is King. And the judge said, no, I'm not going to let you do it because there are some people that might be offended if they had to say your last name, including, he says, Muslims in Nigeria. So here's a guy that's in the United States. He's living in the United States. He has been living in the United States since 1987, wants to change his last name to Christ is King, and the judge says, no, you can't, because it might offend some Muslims in Nigeria if you ever went back there. And, you know, one of the things we prize in the United States is separation of church and state. We believe in it. We believe in Jefferson's Wall, separation of church and state, that you cannot have the government intruding into the affairs of the state. Well, in Islam, there's no separation of church and state. Here's a story about the state-owned bank in the United Arab Emirates. So this is owned by the government. They are providing a credit card that not only gets around the prohibition in Islam against usury, that's charging interest, but also it comes with a built-in compass that points the way to Mecca. So you get a credit card from this government-owned bank in the UAE. It'll have a little built-in compass. So if you get to your 5 times a day and you want to pray, it'll show you right where to turn. Now, one of the where is that story? I got to grab that. It was sitting right here on top somewhere. This is an interesting thing. You know, there has been all of this criticism that the Romney-Ryan team, the Republicans, had cut funding for embassy security. Now it turns out, according to Darrell Issa, a Republican from California, he was on Face the Nation yesterday, and Darrell Issa said, look, the State Department, Hillary Clinton and the State Department is sitting on $2.2 billion that was intended to be used to upgrade security at U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide. But he said the Obama administration will not spend the money. So don't let them lie to you. Again, it's not that Republicans cut funding for embassy security. There's $2.2 billion that the Obama administration is sitting on right now as you and I speak that they will not spend to upgrade security at our consulates. Now, Mark Stein's got a piece talking about the security that was in place in Benghazi, and the State Department hired this firm called Blue Mountain. This is a Welsh firm, and this Welsh firm, Blue Mountain, they hire ex-British and Commonwealth Special Forces, and those dudes are among the toughest hombres on the planet, but the one-year contract for consulate security was less than $400,000. It costs that much for us to deploy one single soldier overseas. So that's obviously not going to cut it. And so what Blue Mountain did, instead of, I mean, we're outsourcing this to a Welsh firm, a company from Wales. We're not even outsourcing it to an American firm like Blackwater. We're outsourcing our security for our diplomats to a company in Wales. And they, in turn, hire people from Libya. They don't even hire ex-commandos and special ops people, special forces people. They hire 5 members of the Benghazi branch of the February 17 Martyrs Brigade. Now, what does that sound like to you? Martyrs Brigade. That sounds like Muslims who are willing to die, blow themselves up in the name of Allah. And that's who this Welsh company hired to protect our diplomats. And there's a lot of evidence that there was inside involvement, that the security that was in place, the Libyan security, just vanished when the attackers showed up, and that somebody tipped off the attackers to where the safe house was. It was like several kilometers away, half mile away, something like that. And they knew right where it was. They were able to direct mortar fire right in to that place. So it's very likely that these Libyan security forces were the ones that sold us out. And you know what they were outfitted with? Number one, you got 5 Libyans supposed to provide security, number one. So that's a problem. They're Muslims. That's problem number one. Problem number two, all they were armed with was handcuffs and batons. So the only people that were being paid by the United States to provide security for our diplomat and other personnel in that consulate, the only personnel that we were paying to provide security, number one, were Muslims that belonged to the Martyrs Brigade. Number two, all they had as weapons were handcuffs and batons, not much use against RPGs and machine guns. Now, I want to play a couple of sound bites here. And just before we do that, I want to read some excerpts or talk to you about a piece done by Ed Klein. He's the one that wrote the book The Amateur, about Barack Obama. He got the title of that book from Bill Clinton. That was what Bill Clinton thinks of Barack Obama. He thinks he's an amateur. And that's where Ed Klein got the title for the book. And what Klein talks about to the Daily Caller is that you've got a real problem right now in the Obama administration because they are trying to throw Hillary Clinton and the State Department under the bus. Remember that Barack Obama will never accept responsibility for anything. It is always, in every circumstance, somebody else's fault. That's why they were so eager to blame it on this YouTube video, because they wanted to have somebody to blame. He's not going to accept responsibility for it himself, so he's got to have somebody to blame. Well, this filmmaker, he can't defend himself. He's a nameless guy. Who even knows who he is? So convenient to blame it on him. Well, that story completely blew up. So who does he have left to blame? He doesn't want to blame it on the Muslims. He's been wearing a ring for 30 years that says there is no God but Allah, so he doesn't want to lay this off on the Muslims. So who's left? Well, the only one that's left is Hillary Clinton and the State Department. And so what Barack Obama doing now is beginning to blame the State Department and Hillary Clinton for this mess up, this total catastrophe at our consulate in Libya. Now, that is ticking off Bill Clinton, and according to Ed Klein, he is even pulling together a legal team to discuss what their options are if Barack Obama comes out and lays the blame openly at Hillary's footsteps. You know, and Jay Carney told reporters on Friday, look, the responsibility here is the State Department. That's where the blood trail leads to. And so in the Clinton camp, they're working with these doomsday scenarios. What do we do? I mean, even up to the point where the possibility of Hillary Clinton resigning in protest. And Klein said, look, relations between the Clintons and President Obama have reached a new low. And part of it was that Clinton offered himself as an advisor to both Obama and Biden to help them prepare for the debates, and they never even heard back. The Obama team didn't even give Clinton the courtesy of a return phone call. He offered help to prepare in debates, and he didn't even give them the courtesy of a phone call. So things very frosty right now between the Obamas and the Clintons. Now, here is David Axelrod. Let's grab clip number 4. This is David Axelrod. Remember, one of the questions that came up is you have the diplomat killed on 9/11. On 9/12, the next day, our word is that President Obama skipped an intelligence briefing to go to this fundraiser in Las Vegas and pal around with Beyonce and Jay-Z and go on Letterman or Leno, whoever he was out there to see. And that he skipped for the umpteenth time an intelligence briefing the day after this catastrophe. The day after, he skips the intelligence briefing. Now here, and Axelrod's asked about this by Chris Wallace and Fox News, did Obama have a national security meeting before he headed out to Las Vegas? And listen to David Axelrod's non-answer. Let's listen.
The reason I ask this is because you say, well, the president made a statement. Yes, the president made a statement, and then he went off to a fundraiser or to a campaign stop in Nevada. Question, before he went to the fundraiser in Nevada, did he meet with his National Security Council to try to sort out these shifting stories? Because state says they never said it was a spontaneous demonstration. Intel did, you're quite right. Did he meet with the National Security Council before he went to campaigning in Nevada?
Chris, I assure you that the president was in contact with all those who had information and responsibility in the national security chain about this incident. Again, let me stress, there isn't anyone on this planet who feels a greater sense of responsibility for our diplomats, for our service people, who takes this more personally than the President of the United States. And he is determined to get to the bottom of what happened, to bring these killers to justice, these terrorists to justice, and to make sure that whatever adjustments we have to make, we make.
So David Axelrod's answer to Chris Wallace's question is no. Did he meet with the National Security Council before he went to campaigning in Nevada? Axelrod's answer, he was in contact with, meaning he did not meet with his National Security Council. Now here's David Axelrod, clip number 5, and here's where he basically officially tosses Hillary Clinton and the State Department under the bus. Let's listen.
Well, let me ask you directly. Does the president take personal responsibility for the fact that repeated requests for more security were made and were rejected, and that may have contributed to the death of those 4 Americans? Does he take personal responsibility for that?
Chris, at the top line level, the President of the United States is responsible for everything that happens under his on his watch. These were judgments that were made by the security folks at the State Department.
So he says, look, this was all made by folks. These were judgments that were made by security folks at the State Department. Who's in charge of the State Department? That would be Hillary Clinton. David Axelrod, Sunday Morning News yesterday, throwing Hillary Clinton, pushing her off the platform and under the wheels of an oncoming train, making Bill Clinton absolutely furious. And again, don't remember the Fisher factoid for the day. The Obama administration, the State Department, Hillary Clinton is sitting right now on $2.2 billion, sitting on it, that was designed to be used to improve security at the embassies. Not the Republicans' fault. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.